glad to have you join us today for the devotional broadcast. Today, we will be looking at what Pastor Davidson titled, Blood Weapon. Please sit back and let's explore it together. The blood weapon, the scriptures establish the truth that the life of any living thing is in its blood. Sin, taking advantage of mankind's weakness, brought death. God, wanting to remove death from the world, used death to defeat death and its power. Although God is not interested in the death of any man, however, whoever stands in his path or plan can be struck to prevent other destinies from being lost. Exodus 12 verse 23, the Amplified Bible. For the Lord will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel above the entryway and the two doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to slay you. The use of blood to appease, judge, prevent, or destroy is an ancient practice that is still seen in some parts of the world today. The shedding of blood can either start or stop a war between two groups. Blood can either calm or provoke. In both the Old and New Testaments, God refers to his children as his firstborn. God's jealousy is willing and ready to save them at any cost, including the destruction of anyone who stands in his way. Hebrews 11 verse 28, the Berean Standard Bible. By faith, he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch Israel's own firstborn. During the rescue operation from slavery in Egypt, blood covered and saved God's firstborn. Egypt is a modern-day version of the world. In these last days, only the blood of God's Lamb can save anyone. Anyone who is not covered by Jesus' blood will be at the mercy of the destroyer. Take note that the destroyer had no regard for the Israeli people, but for the house with the blood on the door. The order was to save anyone who obeyed by smearing blood on their front doors. The house is the body in the New Testament. If you drink and eat Christ's body, he will dwell in you, and you will dwell in him. You are then covered in Jesus' blood. If a man does not eat my flesh and drink my blood, he has no part in me. See John 6 verse 56. John 6 verse 54, New Living Translation. But anyone who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise that person at the last day. As previously stated, the life of the flesh is in his blood. Jesus took on the form of flesh and blood. See 1 John 5 verse 6, eating his flesh and drinking his blood, among other things, gives you the God life. This would allow the destroyer to pass you by. Anyone who does not have the Son of God has no life, because he or she is vulnerable to the destroyer. Christ embodies the nature of God. The falling nature, Satan's nature, abides in anyone without Jesus Christ. The shedding of blood seals an effective covenant. Such a covenant is binding on the parties involved, whether they believe in God or the powers of darkness. In most cases, breaking such a covenant carries a high price, including death. God, willing to demonstrate perfect love to humanity, ratified his covenant with man by shedding his blood in the person of his Son, Jesus Christ. See Hebrews 9 verse 22. Because Jesus' blood is alive and speaks, it has become the weapon for anyone who understands the revelation and mystery of this potent weapon of blood. It is available to all, but it only works for those who live under its covenanted power. Find grace to live under the protection of the covenant's eternal blood. The Lord gives us wisdom and grace to live for him daily. Shalom. Thank you, and we hope that this message has been a blessing to you. To contact Pastor Davidson, please use this email address, livingassembly@minister.com. Until our next broadcast, may the good Lord bless and keep you.